everyone. We want to welcome you today to the We Are Flora Pearl podcast. I am your host, Latasha J. Humphrey, founder of the Flora Pearl Foundation Incorporated. I am super excited to get into this podcast today. But before we get started, we want to let our audience know that this podcast is being brought to you by the Flora Pearl Foundation, where our vision is bridging the gap, building a legacy. Our mission is that we are a 501c3, community-focused nonprofit mentoring organization building healthy relationships and partnerships between women and girls through education, community service, networking, unification, and career planning. Our inspiration is Flora Pearl Humphrey. She was my paternal grandmother, and what she taught me was about faith, family, and community. And that is where I draw my inspiration from. Now, audience, I have the pleasure to introduce to you. He is the prince of our family. He's my son, Zion Ensley. And so I'm super excited because he actually will conduct and kind of co-host the podcast with me today. And we're going to switch roles. And so I'm very grateful. And so I just want to introduce Zion. How are you today?
Good. How about you?
Super excited. This is super awesome. And so I'm pretty crunk about it. And of course, audience, if you don't know, though, I do want to plug in here that I officially became a published author. And so the book, it's entitled This Relationship Matters, and it's 7 keys to building healthy mother-daughter bonds. And it's a mother's perspective. And so we'll just go from there. But go ahead, Zion.
All right, so I got a few questions for you about the book. So just tell me about the book overall. Like, what really inspired you to really get started with the book?
Okay, for me, for the most part, it definitely, I've been wanting to write a book since 2013. I kept saying that I wanted to write one, and the reality is I definitely dealt with some procrastination there. Mm-hmm. And of course, just with the organization itself, though, everything we're doing, it is about building healthy relationships and partnerships, and it's dealing with women and girls, and that's definitely, I consider myself an advocate of women and girls, and so that's been I feel like that's been a lot of my life's work, definitely women and girls and young people. And so with it, I was challenged to write, a few months ago, and
now,
it was where...
Is that who your audience is towards with this book? Like, is that who you're pointing towards? Yes.
So it definitely is, and it is a mother's perspective, and so it is, related to just women in general, but definitely targeted towards mothers specifically. But anyone who mentors girls, anyone who, is, like I said, a mother, that's pretty much who it's targeted towards. Okay. And so I was challenged to write it. And the inspiration came definitely from my experiences in being a mother, specifically to your sister, Wizaria, and just some different challenges that we faced. And so I really prayed about what direction I needed to go in with the book. And I'm just grateful the Holy Spirit gave me the table of contents, and then the book. It's almost at that point the rest is history, and so yeah.
Okay. Now I see you use keys instead of chapters. What made you want to do that?
Because the keys, to me, it tends to focus on the how-to, and over the last, I want to say within the last 5 years, definitely, I've begun to research a lot of motivational speakers, a lot of people who are dealing specifically with mentoring and in the direction that I'm wanting to go. And I hear them talk a lot about adding value. Specifically, it's a gentleman, he's deceased now, but Mr. Jim Rohn, and those who know motivational speaking who are in the world even of business, they know his name. His name is very popular. And so he talks a lot about adding value. And to me, it's not just a chapter. It is a book, but it really is a how-to. It's keys. And so keys, to me, they're those things that unlock a door, or it unlocks anything, whether it's you think about a jewelry box, yeah, or something like that. But a key, it unlocks something. And so I felt like keys, it made more sense than chapters, because it's not just kind of almost like when you read a chapter, it's like it's done and then it closes. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the end of that chapter. But the keys, to me, there's something that's able to be unlocked and then you unlock some type of an answer or some type of a pathway, and then you get to go through it and then excel and move forward. So yeah.
Okay. Now tell me about your relationship, because I seen your dedication. You pointed this towards, how to give it. Basically, like, you basically dedicated this to mother and daughters everywhere. Like, what made you really want to connect with them on a certain level? Like, you just wanted to connect with them.
Because just one thing, like I said too, just having a passion for women and girls, and specifically that relationship of mother and daughter, because that's where it came from. I was very transparent too, just in the book with certain things, where I'm a private person, and of course that's something you know. And I was saying, what is the way that I could really speak to mothers and also to daughters, but what is the way that I can speak to them that was very personable, but it would be able to inspire them in their relationship. So I that was really kind of the reasoning why, to really direct it towards them, if I answered your question.
Okay. Now with your keys again, and which key do you feel was really the one where you struggled the most? Where do you present a story where you struggled the most? Like, what was your greatest struggle that you've gone through in your life?
I want to say the first one, when it said it all starts with you. The self-love, and so, a few things that I said, even in opening the chapter, I talked about how for so long I felt like I just existed, and that I lost like that art, or that natural instinct to love yourself, because you would think like that's what you do. But for so long I feel like I'm naturally a giver. And, then also being an African American woman, there's a certain demeanor, you have to have this strength. It's almost like at times I felt like I was pretending to be strong. And that I said about the people pleasing, not wanting to disappoint. So you can get caught up in that. And then also serving others even before I serve me, like making sure everybody else is good. And then I'm left with nothing.
Yeah.
Really, or just the scraps. Like you're pulling together something to try to make sure you're okay, but everybody else is like walking away and they're good. And so for me, because even in that chapter, I talk about how I got to a place where I decided to really love me, and that came though through watching Zaria. And example that I used was about like the gallon of tea, even with that being in the refrigerator, and how she's, unapologetically, she unapologetically would take the last cup, and it's kind of like I got to it first, so why should I have to ask? If you wanted it, like, you would do it. Why would I have to ask somebody else? If it's in here and you haven't you didn't get it
because it was left there for a reason.
Right, it was left there for a reason. And if you wanted it, right, for the last person who gets it. So to me, I don't consider her selfish in that way. Like sometimes I didn't always understand it, so I would think like, why wouldn't you ask? Or but I began to see it, and I said, if that's who even in raising her, if that's how she embraces it, nothing's like, there's something okay about that. Like, why do we have to look at it in a negative way?
It's just an art she has to master.
Right, and so for me, I said, okay, Latasha, like at some point, and then also even with you are very open about, my live your life, or, you do it for you. Like I would hear that a lot. And so that first chapter really, in going into that, because I had to come face to face with truth, even about myself, about me playing small, with different things, about me not really fully living out loud. And so that, I would say that was one of the most challenging ones, to really open up the door. And then it was like after then, the rest, they came pretty consistent, like they afterwards. Yeah.
So you feel like that's the one you put your most heart into?
I do with that one, and I have to say even the last one, because it's a little bit longer, the bonus key. So that it is 7, and then it's that bonus one. But it's entitled "Forgiveness Serves as the Glue," and I was able to be transparent about even my relationship with my own mother.
Yeah.
So
And
so
we
yeah.
were talking about that earlier, like where self love and self importance, that it comes to, like, you can't really hate on other people
Yeah.
for what they did. It's just more so, were they really there for you in the first place?
Right.
And if they weren't, then it's time to move on.
Yes.
So, that it really is an important key to have, because at the end of the day, if everybody was gone, you're always going to have yourself and God.
Right.
So if you can't even operate off of that alone, you can't really try to rely on other people. You got to try to rely on yourself sometimes. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
now, with your past situation, like, I know the story, of us and growing up with you as my mother and as your son, and with Zaria in the house. What made you realize that, this relationship matters between my daughter, my son, my mother, just those relationships? What made you realize that those relationships matter?
I want to say pretty much through experience, because you can take a lot for granted. Different relationships, and it comes that way. It's like the people that are closest to you. You can take those for granted. You can have some that are very those that they are important. But although you can take them for granted, you still get to a place where you're like, these are very key, and they're very important relationships. And so I think throughout just realizing what mattered, I think it came with maturity too. But I mean, I have to say, like, with you, I mean, I always felt like you mattered to me. But I will say it was a time where I felt like, even with you all being present, that I provided. I didn't really get to know you all as well as I could have earlier on. And that's just being real. Like, I provided for you. So I could see now how people could live in the house with someone, or even when we talked once before about people getting divorces, or how they don't work out, and you wonder, you're like, well, I thought, how could you not know the person, or, and it looks like everything's okay. But you can also, as a parent, you could get caught up in providing, say maybe through a struggle or whatever the case may be, but you not really know your children. And so there was, I think, a point in time it came where we really got to know each other, I think, through different experiences.
I think it was even after the whole Virginia College situation. Like, I feel, especially with you being there, it really let us communicate more. Even when we did go through the struggle, we were just there for each other. We had a good time.
Yeah.
And that's where I remember telling you earlier, it's about those moments that really make the person, that really make that person want to be there, that want to listen to you, or want to, support you through the things you do. It's just the small things.
Right.
Like, I remember we were in the living room the other day dancing. It's just certain stuff like that. But continue what you're saying.
Yeah. No, so it's kind of when you go through those things and you really see is a turning point. And so for me, I knew that what I wanted you all to always know, I've always said it, about you having a relationship with God and really knowing who you are in Him, and not through other people, not letting other people try to get them to validate you, or not needing something from outside of you in order to get to know who you are. I think in those things, and also just the relationship, I want you to always know I'm here. I'm a pillar. I'm not your source, because that's who God is. I'm a resource. I'm that constant in your life. So my relationship with you all, I mean, it's always been where I worked at it. Just in one way or the other. And I think it just got to the point where we got to know each other more, and I really got to know what you like. And so even with colors, I think, there would be certain times it's like, well, what do you really like to do, or what do you want to do? and being able to learn those. I mean, Zari, I think recent, she used to like, I think like purple and pink or, and then that changed for her where, I think it's just purple now, so as far as a favorite color or things like that. And so just those details, I think that.
Because once you start to understand the meaning behind things, you
Right.
start to appreciate it more and you start to look at different aspects of the table.
Yeah. And I think so even with my, let's say with your grandmother, I just, with her, when you get to look at through your life, like different, I want to say with her, maybe even different experiences or why I felt some type of way. I really had a time to reflect and see why I may have responded in different ways or why she may have in different times, and really seeing that she's always been there. Like even if we didn't agree, we could agree to disagree. Sometimes it was we were just like, okay, we need to part ways for a minute or we need a minute.
Yeah.
Or just, it felt like sometimes she just wasn't on my side. It was just, it felt so different. But at the end of the day, she's like, I love my family, and she did what she knew to do. And I felt like she gave what she knew to give. And so when you really, I think it really comes through maturing. It really, for me, that's what it did. It came through situations where I realized that when you say this relationship matters, that's why you all matter so much to me.
And even with Granny, my grandmother, I feel even with some of the certain things she did with you was more so to help you better yourself.
Yeah.
Because, it's okay to support somebody, but sometimes you just got to let them spread their wings. You can't, because that's how you build muscle and stuff.
Yeah.
You can't just have a machine behind you all the time.
Right.
You gotta have that natural power to get back up, because after the machine fails, who's gonna carry you?
Yeah.
So it's I really appreciate what she's done, especially with me and my situations and stuff like that. She's always gonna be there. But some things she just lets us do by ourselves.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, especially with Zaria, how do you plan to move forward on building the relationship that y'all have now to make it even more better than it is?
I had her, and it was one of the things I said in the book about write those 5 things that could help us, make our relationship better. Mm-hmm. And the one that I shared in it was the first thing on her list that she did the list, was get to know what I like. Mm-hmm. And so with that, like taking that to a deeper level, and really, working at it even more than, more so daily. That's what it takes. It's not something that any relationship, it takes 2 willing people, it does, for it to be effective, because relationships, they exist because, if you're related to somebody or whatever the case may be, but that doesn't mean it's a great relationship just because you have the same blood. Yeah. So it does take you being willing to, like I said in there, be willing to value the relationship over being right. Yeah. Because I could be right, but I could be right by myself. It's plenty of times when I could just pull rank and, say, because I am the mother, I'm the authority figure, the parent.
Yeah, trying to affirm dominance.
Right, and I could do that. However, and there are certain things, of course, there are boundaries, there's structure, there's those things that every child needs in growing up. And even for us, as adults, we have certain boundaries. We can't do just whatever. Mm-hmm. There's certain things you have to do. But I say with her, it's more so being willing to work at it every day, being willing to, as she's growing, as,
Just trying to show the respect of money.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Like when people say, I feel like even with growing up, people used to teach us that you earn respect when you give it, but especially when you're the child, it's like you had to get respect off the bat. Mm-hmm. It's not like you never do get respect.
Right.
So with you trying to give Zaria some respect, trying to get to what she knows, trying to learn what she likes, mm-hmm. Certain stuff like that's really important because that's what builds respect. Because she's going to start liking what you like. And then y'all can just hang out with each other, be the best of friends, be the best relationship ever,
Right.
Because y'all understand each other.
I agree.
So that really matters.
It does. It does.
Now, I have to ask about the photo on the cover. And actually, I want to know when the photo was taken and who took it.
Okay, so the photo actually was taken back in 2014.
Wow.
I know, right? So you look at the the picture, and it was taken because there was another initiative on the way going on, and things had to be shifted, in a different direction. But we actually took the photo then, and so. So it's always been the different photos, and I give a mad shout out to Miss Tanisha Tucker, the photographer for that particular photo, and definitely give her props and credit on taking the photo, but just the different contributions that she's given towards the Flora Pro Foundation anyway. And so with it,
Technical difficulties going on.
Right. So with it, as far as the photo, it was, like I said, it was in 2014, and then it was one of those timeless moments, and we have a few others as well, that they were just some really good photos. And of course, she, I say she was Aria, she was a little younger then, but it was definitely, it's one of those, and that photo stood out the most because it was just something about it, something very regal about it, but something very trusting.
Yeah, because I can really see the power in the photo.
Okay.
That especially with y'all having each other's back to back, it's like I got your back.
Yeah.
And I want to know how you really feel every time you see the photo, because it's on the cover of your first book. So
I know, right? It's like, well, kind of with it, I look at it that way, like I got your back, and that means something to me above like even other things. Like you can, and I know the photos, like, you hug and you kind of have that, but it is something about when you have somebody's back, or when you're back to back with someone, you're able to see all of the views versus maybe than you were even when you're facing each other. And it, to me, it does say that when I look at me, there's a piece that I have that it's like I'm present, I'm here for you. And then for her to be smiling, then it says, I have, there's a joy that I have in being present with this, this person who's a very important figure in my life. So it's kind of one of those, the mixture of emotions that's in it. I feel like it exudes love. It to me, it says there's a respect. It says that, it speaks of ladies. It speaks of the different things. So for me with that one, Tanisha caught just a very beautiful moment. And we so happen to be the subjects of that moment. So, yeah.
Now, also with your company, Flora Pro Foundation.
Yeah.
How really does this book and the Flora Pro Foundation really tie together? So
because the organization, and to give a background for those that may not know, of course, the organization, and I mentioned it, in the intro, in the first segment, but it is the Flora Pearl, Foundation. It definitely is named after my paternal grandmother. And so there was a lot that she taught us, and it was about faith, family, and community. And then the organization is geared towards building healthy relationships and partnerships with women and girls. And so like one of those key relationships, it is mothers and daughters. So with that being the focus, then we have, even with the book, it is birthed to be kind of a partner curriculum or a partner tool to assist with different workshops that are coming down the line, with different things that will come and be birthed as we move into even the years to come.
Okay.
So it really was served to be greater than I even thought. Like even with the reflection journal and the affirmations, I see it being that, and then working diligently to see what will be next. And so with it, they tie in because of the actual content, but also because of it being key and educating, it being key, and teaching about giving back and unifying. So those different areas that we have with education, community service, networking, unification, and career planning, like in each of those areas, I really see the book being key in those areas, and helping us with fulfill the mission and work towards the mission. Because I mean, the mission, of course, I guess it could never be completely fulfilled, but to work towards, filling the mission and working and serving towards making it a great thing, then that's what it's about.
Okay.
That's why they tie in together.
Okay. Now, also with your great grand, well, your grandmother. I said
Right.
my
Yeah.
great
Great.
grandmother.
Right.
If she were, sorry, if she were alive today, how would you feel? How would you imagine y'all's relationship be?
Wow. It's almost, and you saying it, it's like when I really get a chance to think about it, it's almost like I sense her presence all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I know like her definitely being here, I could see it being just even deeper and stronger. But with her being here, I feel like just her life being the example that it has been, and that's been a driving force for me in different ways. Like my relationship with God, I feel like it started because I saw her dedication, her commitment to faith, family, community. So I think like, I don't know, just our relationship, I feel like it would be deeper and stronger.
Like A1.
Yeah, I mean, really, and even with the organization, I mean, I don't know if it would have possibly still turned into that, but she did enough, and she was enough, or left enough of a legacy, in my opinion, and I saw enough where I even wanted to honor her, in the way to name the organization after her. And even so, if she were living, I don't know if it would be the organization named after her, but I believe that it would be something that we would be doing together. Yeah. Put it that way. So I think that, I know this is her though. As far as like with the organization, I know it is the legacy that she's left, and what I do consistently, it is because of the example that I saw in her. And so, yeah.
Okay. Now, with do you feel even with this relationship matters? Like, do you feel like especially with Zari and Granny, do you feel like their relationship can be more stronger than it is like you were with your grandmother?
I do. I think that with everything, it takes working at it. Mm-hmm.
It'll just take some time.
It'll take time. I think that, I don't think, I do. I feel like it could. I feel like though they both have to work at it. Like they both be willing to do it. I think for me, those moments, it would be those stolen moments. Like when of course I'm originally from Chicago, and that's where she was. So even when I would go visit, we would have those different moments when everybody wasn't there necessarily, and it may be us, whether she were cooking something or, whatever the case may be. But we would have, those talks or those times like just I would hear her, or just talking, or even being around when the women in our family would get together, and then we all have these different conversations and be able to share with one another. But it took it took that, and it was her carrying her every birthday. You're gonna get something, or Christmas. I mean, it took like those different ways that she would show it. Like if she couldn't be present, like she's gonna make sure everybody gets, and not just to get the stuff, but you just knew, like if it was just a card, you knew you're gonna get something from Flora Pearl. But I just I don't know, it's just that respect that I had, and that I listened. Like she was that one of those pillars in our family. So yeah.
And do you feel like she really listened to other people's problems too? Like, is that a main factor? Like on both sides, you have to be willing to listen. And that's why I believe everybody who really reads this book, they need to have an open mind.
Right.
Because if you're really trying to repair a relationship, you can't just go based off of what you know.
Correct.
Because obviously what you know is not really working. Yeah.
Right.
Or you're not applying it to its fullest. So everybody who's really listening to this and who's read the book or is going to read the book, have an open mind. Try to fix some things, try to change some things, and really just try to understand that this relationship does matter. And if you really cared about it, you would try to fix it.
Right.
So.
And, it really does in that way. So, yes.
Now, especially with your children, especially with this relationship matters, what they want to do, like, how do you support them the way that they need to be supported? Because even with them being even with us being teens, I'm speaking third person. Even with us being teens, people really don't give us a lot of credit, but we do go through a lot. Even through peer pressure, trying to please everybody from our parents to our friends and just other peers, and just trying to fit in to where we can make everybody happy. How do you really support us through that? Like, how do you really support us to keep us level-minded and keep us chasing?
I guess my biggest thing with you all, I always say this phrase right here. I say, I'll help you do anything but fail.
Yeah.
And so with that, if you come to me and it sounds like it's making sense with different things that you want to do, and even sometimes if it doesn't, I kind of talk through it like, why is it you want to do this, or what is the case? And I feel like the biggest thing is to provide the different resources that I may not have. Like, I'm not the type of person that I feel like it all has to come through me. And I think you've seen that through the years, that if we needed to reach out to other people, if you say, okay, hey, I want to do this or whatever, it's like, okay, well, what resources do we go and reach out to get in order to get you to where you want to be, or to achieve that goal? And I feel like in a lot of ways too, even with my life, I've been an example of what to do and what not to do. So I've been, pretty transparent with you all in that way. There's been different things that I've accomplished. I feel like my drive, and you all have talked about it, that perseverance, you say you're a go-getter, you're a fighter. You have your faith in God, and you trust and you believe Him. And I feel like being that example in one way or another, where you can at least, and also being that person where you can come talk to me, even share your dreams, even if they seem like they're just out of this world. I've never been one to downplay what you all wanted to do. I do try to keep things in perspective, and it means where let's balance it out. Let's see how we can really go towards it to make it a reality. And a lot of what I've learned myself, even more recently, it is about execution being respected. You can say you want to do something, just like I said with the book. When I started out and I was saying, 2013, I wanted to do the book. Well, you procrastinate. But really, even for yourself, you can say, not necessarily just check it off the list, but that is a thing that I can then say, I am a published author. Now, I can say that versus I'm going to write the book. Or when people would ask, when are you going to write the book? Because certain people, it would say something here and there. And I was like, yeah, I'm moving towards it, but I was a little bit afraid of tackling it, So I think with being that consistent, I'm going to cheer you on. You know, that's me, to be that consistent, that support, a part of that support system, definitely. And I say in the book to be the president of it. You know, as it says, you know, my daughter, she has a support system and I'm the president of it. Well, I feel like not only for Zaria am I that way, but also with you. You know, to be that support to you, to be that encourager, that motivator, the same things that I do for other people. That's what I want to be for you all, to help inspire you through my life, and then you know, just to be that example. So for you, with supporting things that you love, you just know I got your back, the same way you said with the cover on the book.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I believe that's really an important aspect, especially when kids are going through that change, you know, especially teenagers, you know, especially how I feel. You know, I feel like we're going through a lot of stuff and everything's being thrown at us very quickly.
Right.
And especially when you get to that age where, you know, you're 18 and the world deems you as an adult.
Yeah.
It's like, are you really, you know? Are you mentally prepared? And I feel like some in some relationships with parents, they just kind of throw you out there. They really don't try to understand what's going on. So it's very important for parents to really support their kids' dreams, because at the end of the day, you know, you're really all we got.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's important for you to have my back, because everybody else can leave in a jiff. It's all about what the parent is there for, because you are the one that brought me in this world, taught me everything I know, and are you going to be there for me or not? So
yeah. And I think for me, I would challenge, though, like, even what I know, because I only can teach you what I know.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, the biggest thing I think parents can do is also, you be that consistent. You be there. You be, like you said, have your back, and you be there and be present. But not be afraid to step out if it's something that is beyond your knowledge, or your level of thinking, that you're not afraid to get those resources and those tools to help your daughter or son, you know, to become all that they've been purposed to be. Because we're as stewards, and that's something that, and I wrote that in the book as well, about being a steward of your children. That's what God told me I was. He said, those are my children. You are a steward, and you are to teach them what I teach you.
Yeah.
So that took a lot of pressure off, even though sometimes down the line I still was like, when things would come up, I'm just like, how is this going to get done? And I had to go back to that rhema word. I mean, really, that word, and saying, I'm a steward. There's a difference with being a steward. You know, you do what you're supposed to do, and you want to be a good steward over what you have. But you definitely, I'm not by myself. That's what I'll say, you know, so not being afraid to ask for help when needed as a parent.
Now, just as last question, you know, especially coming from a single mother home, really, just how did you really grasp it all? Like, what motivated you to grasp it all from the beginning?
I'll say with my mom, because, you know, of course, initially, for those who don't know the background, just a real brief, my parents, they were married. I mean, they got married when I was like 2 or 3, but they dated, you know, prior, and they were married. But it didn't work out. My father, he was an abusive alcoholic, and my mom eventually decided to leave. And her thoughts, we've even talked and had some conversations through the years. Most recently, she said that her wanting to leave was because of me. She said that basically God spoke to her and said, if it were just you, if you wanted to say, that's fine, but your daughter Latasha doesn't deserve this, you know, to be in that. And although I never experienced him being physical towards me, he was definitely physical towards her. So just her being willing to sacrifice and leave, and then being willing to say, what she always instilled in me was that you're going to be able to compete. You know, I went to a Catholic school. I remember going to some of the best schools, like even in moving from Chicago to Birmingham, that, you know, just some of the schools that were where you would consider, I guess, being able to compete, or some of the just some of the opportunities even that came, that I saw that. I saw her drive. I saw her being a go-getter, you know, her being willing to step out. I mean, some people, when I talk about that, her leaving from Chicago to come to Birmingham, it's just like, I don't think I could have done it under whatever circumstance or even stayed. You know, they would have thought, like, even if they left under one circumstance, they probably would have ended up back in Chicago. Yeah. And for her to be willing to stay. And so I think with that, though, there was a lot that I learned about being, even her teaching me to be proud to be an African American woman, and embracing just being, a woman of color. Yeah, and wanting to research. Like, I wanted to research that because of what she instilled in me. So that was kind of a common thread that we have, and I talk about that in the book. But it definitely was, I say, because of that, then I then said, I want something else. Like, there's something else that's available, so with education and learning and being, just being taught that I'm a lady, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I have the capability to stand in the room with whomever. Like, I didn't have to shrink and be small. And so I think, for me, with that, what was instilled in me by even my mother, those different things, that was very helpful in that way. And there were certain things I know, that I had to learn on my own. But definitely with that, I think that has then propelled me through the years to the next level, and that have helped me to be who I am today. So yeah. Absolutely. Did you have any other questions, or that's it?
No, actually, have one more question.
Okay.
Is it off or? Especially with you raising me and Zaria, even through the 17 years that you've raised us. What really made you raise us the way you did? Like, what made you want us to stand out from everybody else? Because now that I look back on it, I can really say that I'm not like everybody else, and I've completely accepted that, because I really appreciate everything that you have done for us. And I look back, I got the connections and qualities that I have because of everything you've taught me. Even though you may have not noticed that you taught me it, I've just taken on to it, and I really just appreciate it. I use it to the best of my ability. Even if I may not be good in math than other kids in this situation, I know I'm good at really being respectful to people. Really learn from a situation. And even with me being a boy, I can really say that I've really learned from you to really own up to my situation, or own up to what I've done. And I just really wanted to know from your perspective, like, what made you raise us the way that you did? Especially with me being the firstborn and a son, what made you really change the way you think and change the way you were raised to really raise us the way you raised us?
Yeah. I know in one of the chapters, and who are you trying to make me cry? I'm going to fight back. Let me fight. No, okay. But no, but one of the chapters, because I talk about how, I heard a lot growing up, it was do as I say, not as I do. Or, just like children are to be seen and not heard, and those different things. And I'm just like, I didn't, and not necessarily it just came from my mom or something like that. I mean, she has her way of raising, she has her thoughts even in raising me, that I did some different things. Like, it may be certain consistencies that were the same, but there were some things that I wanted to do different with you all. And I just wanted you to be you. Like, I don't want you to be a replica of somebody else. I felt like, how is that like, if you're duplicating somebody else, like, how are you authentically you? And it can be looked at in different ways. I mean, I went through a phase where people who didn't know me, they thought I was conceited, and sometimes it was because they didn't talk to me, they didn't know that through conversation. And I always felt like I was I don't know, outcast or whatever. I felt in that way. But I just and I could be in the room with people. I definitely can,
Socialize.
social. You can be a social butterfly, but at the same time, I have my moments when I be to myself, and I own them now more so than I used to. I used to think like I had to be in the mix of a crowd, and I think in some ways because I did go through some of that and thinking I had to people please, like I was saying with that, or I was just like, I don't want that for my children. Like, I want them to stand on their own. And I want you to be able, of course, because you can't do things by yourself. Relationships, they do matter with people.
Yeah.
And so you can't be a solo, and not have anybody. I mean, I think that's just not real. But be your own person, like in the midst of a crowd, even when other people are doing something else that is not what you want to do, that you wouldn't necessarily be pressured to do that, and you could stand on your own. And so that's very important to me as it relates to both you and your sister. It's very important for me, for you all to live the life that God has called you to live and not my life. Like, I don't want to live vicariously through you to make you become who I think you should be.
Yeah.
And I think that, even with your sister by her being a girl, then I want her to be true to her, and not look for validation. So there are different questions that I ask because in this day and time, and she is an African American young girl. And so, you have where certain people, they look at her in a certain way, or they'll look at African American girls. There's certain different pressures that they may experience, and not only them, I mean girls in general, definitely. But there's a little bit of pressure when you're a woman of color or you're a girl of color. And so even with that, I'm like, okay, from your kinky hair to whether it's kinky or straight or whatever that is braided or not, or whatever the case may be, or to your complexion, if it's not, what the norm may be or what is considered to be okay in society's view, that you can still say, I'm good, without all of that. If I have none of your approval, I'm gonna walk tall and proud and be who I am. And so that's even for you. That's what I want. And I don't regret any of that with raising you to be different, but to hear you say that it really mattered with what I chose to do. That's what is a blessing for me.
And for me, I feel even with past situations where I just had to let things go. I really kind of, be honest, I subconsciously looked at your situation where you've had people that were closest to you and sometimes you just had to let go.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel, I've just kind of got to the point where I'm too young to be trying to please everybody.
Yes.
And if you're not those people that have been there for me since day one, if you're not the trees that have supported me, then I really can't try to repair that relationship. Because if it didn't work before, it's going to take some time for you to get on a level that those other people have,
Yeah.
And, it's just about how I just learned to operate more in a more manner where there are certain relationships that don't really matter for real, because it's either both people don't want it or one person doesn't want it,
Yeah.
And it's just about how you operate, because it's that you got that one person that's giving off that negative energy and the positive energy, and we all know that negative always takes away from positive.
Yeah.
So you gotta have two people that bring positive energy, make something greater.
That's right.
And for that to continue to go on. So for me, I just kind of learned that from you, just to sometimes you gotta take away people out of the equation because they're not producing positive energy and they're not applying the way they need to be applying. Because like you said, if they cared, they would. Like I said, and you said this before too. If they cared, they would work on it.
Yeah. So
it's just for me, especially in the world that we live in today, I've just kind of got to the point where I'm only worried about you, Granny, and my mom and Grandma, and you, Granny, and Zaria.
Yeah.
And Because y'all have always been there for me. Especially with Zaria, I want to be there for her. Because like you said, this relationship matters. And I want to be there for her, even though being my younger sister. You know, even when we were younger. I always follow her around, listen to what I say.
I know.
You know, sometimes she may get mad at me, but she'll still listen to
what
I
you say. Right.
And I want to understand her because I want to be there for her. You know. And like you've been there for me. And because I know, we all know that nothing really lasts forever. So even when you're gone, I want to be there for her.
Yeah.
And that's why I try to take everything I can, learn from you, to make sure that she's going to be all right. You know, and it's just certain stuff like that that really just helps me really go on, like to help build relationships with other people. I don't not making relationships with other people.
Yeah. But,
you know, I'm too young to be spending so much time trying to please other people when they don't want to try.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that works for me. Well.
Sorry if I wrapped on.
No, it's
cut that part
really
out,
great.
No.
No, I thank you so much for being willing to be the host today, or the interviewer, I would say, of
had to bring my
of this
professional setting in. So.
Right. Well, that's good stuff. So we thank you. I thank you for for sharing this moment and this time, and so.
Golden moment right here.
I know. Yeah. Good stuff. Well, thank you. And our goal at the Flora Pearl Foundation is to always be a blessing to all of those that we come in contact with by operating with the spirit of excellence. We want to thank you all so much for listening today. And you can visit our website at www.florapearlfoundation.org. And we want to go ahead and kind of still give that plug as it relates to This Relationship Matters is the book. It's by me, Latasha J. Humphrey. It's sold in Amazon, the Books A Million, and Barnes and Noble. So you all make sure to check it out. And like I said, you can visit our website at www.florapearlfoundation.org, and also learn more about me even at www.latashajhumphrey.com. So we look forward to spending time with you all each week, and we will talk to you soon.